homeschooling or Islamic school. And then Imam Hassan mentioned something specific about a curriculum that's based on the Quran. Is there any work done on that, like for homeschooling resources, for like teaching your kids math or algebra or something like that from a Quranic perspective? Is there any work done on that in Islamic schools or any work of that done in the homeschooling community? I was just wondering.
Okay, so the question asked was whether there's been any work done. So Imam Hassan, he mentioned that the use of Quran as part of the education curriculum or the basis of it. So the question is basically whether such a curriculum already exists or whether it has to be developed. So Jazakallah khair. Who's taking this yard?
I'm a high school principal, so I told you I'm restricted by the system. So we just teach the books that the system gives us. As far as I think you'd have to ask somebody who is an expert on homeschooling. As far as I know, who comes up with this curriculum? Who's going to come up with this curriculum? For the most part, in most countries, the curriculum is distinct. You have the so-called, math, science, blah blah, and then you have Islamic studies, Arabic, what have you. When we as a school try to, introduce Islamic studies in Arabic, we look at other countries or whatever, what curriculum they have, and it's not what Sheikh Hussain was talking about, where it's integrated completely like that. And that's why I mentioned to him that it's a tremendous effort. I don't know if it's out there, but that requires literally a ministry. Okay, I don't know if a couple of guys on the weekends at Tim Hortons can bring something like that, but may Allah reward them. I don't know how they're working, and I don't know the nature of their work. I'd love to, see what that's all about.
I'm not aware of anything from the homeschooling perspective, but there is a support network there. I think Toronto is the. I know Toronto is the one of the the biggest Muslim homeschooling networks in North America, if not the world. So if anyone wants more information, they can approach me after, and I can connect them with those resources, inshallah.
All right, Jazakallah khair. Any other questions from any of the brothers? Well, we see if there's. I don't know if there's any from the sisters. Anything from the brothers? No questions about plans? Yes, go ahead.
So if like a Muslim is being taught inside Islamic school his entire life, or he's being homeschooled, then would he face any challenges when he would go out into the real world, or if he goes into university or the workplace? Would that end up being a shock for him?
Okay, so the question is whether a Muslim student who attends Islamic school or who is homeschooled, would he face any challenges because he chose to take that route when he goes out basically into the world, so into the workforce and etc. post education? Is that correct? Okay.
This is one of my favorite ones because subhanAllah, when parents come and they're debating whether they should bring their kids to our school or not if they're lucky to get in because of the waiting lists. Once they get in, then sometimes there's hesitancy. Will they, be aliens, and can they deal with the kuffar, and will they be able to go to university and blend in? So first of all, kids going to Islamic school, they're not going to underground bunkers, mountain caves, isolation from world. As much as that would be awesome, that's not the reality, okay? They're dealing with the same pressures as kids in public schools. They have the same social media, the same internet, the same phones, and the same TVs, and the same malls, and the same blah, blah, blah. They know a lot of friends who are in public school. They're very acquainted with the culture. I say all of this as negatives, by the way, but it's positives for those who want to integrate. They're very aware of everything out there. Alhamdulillah, they have a better environment, more rules, restrictions, and stuff that inshallah we can train them, help them build their identity. Releasing a person who's 14, 15 years old into a high school and say, go learn how to swim and avoid all the fitna, versus, training someone, keeping them, as protected as possible, educating them, preparing them. Once they're 18, 19, they're going to university, they're more mature, they have a better sense of Islam and identity, know right and wrong a little better. They're much more likely, inshallah, to be able to face the challenges. And believe me, ask your parents and ask the people who've come from overseas, from different countries, they don't know nothing what's going on. They come, they go to work, and they, it might take some time, a few years for the uncles, but it takes a few days, unfortunately, for our kids to fit right in. And I tell you this from experience of students graduating, going to universities, coming back, speaking with us. I ask them this question often, seeing them go to workforce, after 4 years, I've been at this almost 8 years now, so I've seen kids go to workforce and stuff. Not an issue whatsoever. You wouldn't be able to tell who's gone to Islamic school or not from that perspective. But alhamdulillah, they're more sure of themselves and all that. So it's a fallacy that they'll be completely lost and they won't know how to deal with the pressures out there. Inshallah, they will deal with it hopefully more Islamically. As opposed to just become like whoever out there.
Yeah, I can take a stab at this from a homeschooling perspective. So just to give a sort of, just to support what Sheikh Abdulaziz is saying, is that from a homeschooling perspective, what it is that instead of being socialized by kids, you're being actually socialized by adults. Right, so you start acquiring those you start maturing faster, and you have these kind of capabilities as a youth whose reference point is other adults, right? So they start emulating those. So it's supposed to other kids who, are into whatever they're into, Pokemon or whatever it is. You're like with adults who are, dealing with real issues, right? So I can give you a story from my my stepson. He was a bunch of kids, and they were listening to, those kids were listening to Taylor Swift, and so he started enjoying the right forbidding the evil on them. It's like, what the heck are you guys listening to? So he was, because he had that maturity and capability, he told them off, why are you listening to this garbage? You know what they're actually saying, and that type of thing. So again, just to echo what Sheikh Abdulaziz is saying, is that there's a mythology about there that, you end up, oh my God, you just end up as this kind of, social outcast, jazakallah khair. And you don't have these kind of capabilities, but you can see in the kind of stories that Sheikh Abdulaziz is saying, and what I'm saying is that, that this is more a mythology and just kind of a scare tactic into kind of, just kind of conforming to the system, and that you have, like I said in the presentation, you have to have a vision for your kids. If you're just gonna as Abdulaziz mentioned, that you're just gonna let them play with the iPad and things like that, and that's gonna be their reference point, then that's what it is. But if you have a vision and you implement that in your kids and you want them to achieve that type of thing, you can build that in these kind of options, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Before we go back to the men, we have a question from the ladies. So the question is, are all Islamic school curriculums the same, or are they different? And if they are different, how do we know which of the schools is better? So what should we be looking for?
Okay, so before that, going back to your question very quickly, suggestion, if you're really not sure what happens once they graduate from Islamic school, there's alhamdulillah a lot of people in the community who have. Just go meet someone. Come, I'll introduce you to someone. Inshallah, you can ask them all the questions you want, and see how that works. As for the same curriculum, I'm not sure which curriculum we're talking about. Generally, most Islamic schools, if not all Islamic schools, the ones who are teaching math, science, English, and the regular subjects, they're using Ontario curriculum. Okay, they're all the same in that regards. Okay, they're all using Ontario curriculum. If you're talking about Islamic curriculum, they're probably a little bit different. Okay, and for the most part, it's not the school developing their own brand new curriculum. For the most part, I can't speak for every Islamic school out there. I can speak for 5, 6 that I know of. They use something maybe from Emirates, Qatar, Saudi, whatever different curriculums out there. That are in English, that are designed for this kind of level. So a lot of the Islamic studies curriculums in Islamic schools are based from there. High schools need to develop their own curriculum. Okay, we have to submit that curriculum to the ministry, and then they have to approve that curriculum for us to grant credits to the students. I don't know any school who has designed a curriculum for high school besides our school. Alhamdulillah, I inherited it, so I can't take any credit for it. Grade 9 and 10, we had that Islamic studies curriculum developed. The ministry had approved it. Obviously, they're not looking in, are we teaching Quran and Sunnah and what are we? They just that there is enough academics to grant a credit. Right at the end of the day, they care about the credits, that there is enough academic work involved to grant a credit. The ISNA curriculum has been shared with pretty much most Islamic high schools that are starting up. Then they use our curriculum to apply for Islamic studies credits to teach. And I'm pretty sure there's other Islamic schools, high schools who've developed their own curriculum. Alhamdulillah, 2 years ago we started Islamic history credit as well. So there's basically we go through all the history of the various Islamic khilafas from the Sahaba time all the way to the Ottomans, and alhamdulillah the kids get a credit for it as well. Which Islamic school has the best curriculum? Honestly, it doesn't matter which Islamic school has the best curriculum. It matters who is teaching that curriculum. Okay, I can have the same curriculum. I have two teachers. One will be awesome and enlightening and engaging and inspiring, and the other will be just making kids memorize something and beat them up if they don't memorize it or something like that. Okay, so it's really, I would say it's more the teacher than which curriculum is being used, but you'd have to do your homework.
Jazakallah khair. Yes, first it was the brother here. Go ahead. Wa alaikum assalam.
I have I think deeply, because there's a lot of more issues than the education. And my question is, do you really think that Islamic education, the school system, is going to work in a non-believer's system? We are supporting them, and the Quran clearly tells us to not support them. Because if you're not worshipping Allah, ask yourself who are you worshipping. Indeed, it's shaitan. And when we live in a non-believer's society, they are not worshipping Allah because they're not Muslim, right? So their companion is shaitan, as Allah tells us clearly in the Quran. So when we're obeying them, Allah tells us do not obey shaitan. So would that Islamic school really be successful in a non-Muslim country or society is what I'm trying to ask. And perhaps that's where the problem with the Ummah is, through us, because we are supporting them, whether it's directly or indirectly, even by, we're being forced to pay taxes, but we're paying them. What are they doing with that taxes? They're giving it to, they're schooling their armies, whatever, they're hurting our own people, our own deen. We're not even realizing this, but we need to think a little more deeper. And then these are little issues that we have to deal with, but we have to focus on the big issues. And that's what my question is. Do you really think that the education system is going to solve all the other problems, or what?
Okay, so the question is, whether or not, trying to create our own education system within the society here, which is not Islamic, whether this is actually going to produce any results and it's effective, so whether it'll produce results or if it's actually effective. So.
Okay, barakallahu fikum. There was a lot of things related to that question, and as Muslims we need to look at guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we need to break down the issues one by one and not mix it all up and get confused. So first of all, 100%, we know لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to the creation if it entails any disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we don't obey anything, we don't follow anything that goes against our deen. And that's partly why we need to have Islamic schools. I know a lot of people are, they were really freaked out when this, sex education curriculum, or physical education curriculum came out, and the sex education part of it. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And, it's crazy bad and all this stuff. It is crazy bad. But it was crazy bad way before that sex education curriculum. There was a lot of things really messed up. All right, the underlying messages and beliefs and values that are being propagated in the system are very dangerous. And that's why when you talk about people losing their faith and losing their iman, and I was alluding to it, people do lose that, especially when they don't have, the reference to go back to, and they don't know this stuff is kufr to begin with, right? So there's a lot of ideas and things that are out there being taught, right and wrong, what is moral and immoral, all this stuff becomes wish-washy, everything goes, individualism, be your own thing, do whatever makes you happy, YOLO, you only live one life, or whatever it is. We say YOLO, you only die once. We change it up for the people out there. We say, no, we got, different things to do. So, the kids are being bombarded out there, right? And we need to try to get them out of there as much as we can, whether it's through Islamic schools, whether it's through the masajid, through the halaqat, through different avenues that we can, inshallah, teach them properly, all right? Now, our existence here being supporting, the kuffar, we have to be, more precise, where the issue is with that. The prophets lived with kuffar, right? The Muslims lived in Habasha. The Prophet ﷺ traded with the Quraysh. So we have to be precise on what we're talking about exactly. If we're talking about taxes, then we say, look, the taxes are being taken from us. We're not voluntarily giving taxes away. Like, it's forced upon us. It's kind of like me walking in the forest and somebody puts a gun to my head and says, give me your wallet. And then they go use it to do something haram with it. It's not, it's being forced upon me, right? I have no option. I'll let Malik add some more stuff there, but we got to be precise exactly in what we're talking about. Like I was trying to say in my talk, Islamic schools is not the be-all, end-all. We have work to do. We have things we need to educate our kids, whether they go to Islamic school or not. Going to homeschooling, that's another awesome option, great option. But there are a lot of issues that we have in the ummah, not only here, everywhere. You tell me where it's 100% halal and everything is cool, I'm not supporting the kuffar, I'll go there, right? The issue is we need to work, inshallah, towards having that one day, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah for your question. I think it's important to frame what are the problem we're trying to solve here, and I think that the practical problem what we're trying to say is here, people have kids, so how are you going to navigate this situation where, as you pointed out, they're swimming in a sea of ideas that largely contradict Islam, right? So this is the kind of the question, and that's really what we're trying to answer. The reality is Muslims live here. The reality is they have kids, and so the question is, how do we do that? And so that's where we're trying to approach the problem. Is that a lot of Muslims, predominantly Muslims, go to public school. That's the reality. So and as was pointed out, there's a lot of challenges with Islamic school in terms of funding, affordability, etc. And it's also similarly with the problems of the homeschools. The reality of who can really homeschool, right, is that it's really rich people, right? Like, in the sense that it's like people who the one of the spouses can take time off and they can attend to the children, for that amount of time, right? So what our goal was to say, given this context and given that you do have kids, what can we do? Because it's an obligation, it's a fard from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ensure that your kids don't enter the fire, right? And so that's the point, is that how do we give them the tools and give them the necessary capabilities to kind of take on these challenges, and so that's really what our goal was, is to say that in a sense that if you're just going to send your kids to public school or even Islamic school or even homeschool, but you're not going to take that responsibility and ownership to equip them to give them that critical thinking and that viewpoint, then they're going to, like you said, then they're going to be washed out, right? Like, in the sense, right, that's the thing. So there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of different things, and this one small thing is not gonna solve all the problems of the ummah, right? But in the sense that it is a fard and it is an obligation, and it's important that we take this obligation seriously. Otherwise, you'll end up with what we keep on repeating, kind of these mistakes where you have 40-year-olds who are not praying and 30-year-olds who are not fasting, right? So.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. If there's one more question from the sisters, I will take that. Otherwise, I will actually close the event here. Is there anything from the sister side? No? Okay. All right. So, Jazakallah khair. I would like to thank everyone for attending. This is a monthly effort. We want at least these discussions to happen monthly, and next month we will actually be discussing the very important issue of how to correctly address the violence that we see that's addressed in the media. So what should be the sort of intellectual and rational way to respond to this? As many of you are probably sitting here aware of the events that took place yesterday. And for us, this becomes an important issue when we're talking about the deaths of people, especially how they're presented in the media, and learning how to contrast them with things that we saw. In addition, for example, we saw attacks in Lebanon, the refugee camp that was burned in France as well, the cow lynchings in India, and the ongoing deaths in Syria. And basically, what should be the way that we basically address these issues. We will have details for you on this soon. Our website is still under construction. Inshallah, hopefully we'll have it done by the end of the month. Our Facebook group should be up within a week, and we will try to get these talks up as well online within the next few days for everyone to watch. So, thank you everyone for coming. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.